familiar?
No, I already knew it wasn't.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
yes.
This is the Village of Minerva Park Planning and Zoning meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission. We're gonna have what day is it? It's October 15th. It is 7:02 PM Eastern Standard Time. We'll go with roll call.
What's your name?
Fred.
JP.
All right, my name is JP Martin.
Thank you.
Brandon Cooper.
Tommy Grant.
Terry O'Connor.
Eric Fisher.
Lewis Jones.
Tiffany Southern.
All right. Here we go. Let's get this thing started.
We will get it started. So,
Let's end it.
we have been spending the last couple meetings talking about some zoning changes to the Cleveland Avenue area. And so the village, as we know, has a limited amount of commercial that fronts both Cleveland and then other commercial that fronts 161. Of particular interest is Cleveland Avenue, which, you know, we're in between two major Columbus intersections at 161 in Cleveland and then Morrison, Cleveland. And we've been, and as has been passed on down from council, they would like to see some suggestion for how we can proceed to be ready for a potential redevelopment of some of our commercial retail areas. We've been talking about specifically a large block where two of our older retail centers sit, which are, you know, as we've discussed, kind of from a traffic management standpoint and age standpoint, are they need to be redeveloped with a few houses, you know, offices in between and a residential on the corner. That could all be included. And on the screen, I'll throw up, I still have it up on my screen. I don't. So let me bring it up here real quick. See, I prepped myself earlier in the day, and then sometimes these things get closed as I get ready to come back to the meeting. Let me bring that.
You got some tabs open.
I do a lot of tabs. I need to upgrade. This is about a 5-year-old laptop, and I'm pushing its limits. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. It needs 32, the way I use it. So I was happy with it 5 years ago. Now it's a little tough on it.
You need us to talk to anybody for you about that, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
We're doing budget discussion.
No, this is mine. I
Okay.
have to use this for my full-time gig, though, which is not public. They don't like when we mix those things when you see it. So it's trying to keep everybody on the straight and narrow. So, between the block between Wildwood and Woodley are what we're specifically discussing. Earlier today I measured it. We roughly have 100 from the right-of-way line, which doesn't include sidewalk, potential on-street parking, about 175 to 180 feet to the rear are our dimensions, and it's almost 770 feet from Wildwood to Woodley. So you have a fairly significant area, as we've discussed, that can be redeveloped in all one fell swoop, and the village owns the alley in the back behind all of these. So we had talked in brief the last couple times about kind of what we've gone through. I put up our planned commercial districts. That's what we currently have on the books, and that's what currently applies to this. And planned commercial districts, in general, are good to have on the books. They allow a municipality to have a flexible discussion with a future developer. They do have certain base text that's in there about heights and widths and setbacks and things of that nature. And so those are all on the book, just for everyone's knowledge. If someone would come today, you know, there was a concern at council that, oh, well, what do we have on the books? Well, we have this in the books. So you're covered at the base for that kind of thing. Now, to help council out in the process, you know, I think the desire was to be a little more in depth, a little more suggestive. And one of the things that people talked about is the city of Columbus's zone-in. And in the last couple of meetings, we took a look at what was available to zone in and what Columbus had done. And they had spent a significant amount of dollars. And some of it, of course, are residents' taxpayer dollars that we're going to spend on the project. I would say they spent a few million to get everything ready to go. I had a bit of time to have kind of a deeper dive into it. You know, we had looked at the Urban General 1 district, and we looked at the Urban General 2. We kind of settled from our last meeting on the Urban General 1 and kind of the layouts of how that kind of looks and how that is. And, you know, I had expressed, you know, concern at being too overly complicated in the code, and sometimes that does happen in different municipalities. I will say that after I had a little bit of time to kind of dive into their, because this is just their front few pages, you know, what kind of sets the tone. You get deeper into what they put time into, which is their section. They have these other articles from their code area, which I put up here, which includes their definitions of rules and measurement and their supplemental district standards. District regulations are more like neighborhood commercial and kind of set down. We already have kind of a district regulation with the planned commercial district as a whole, which kind of sets the base of this. And what I will say is that they have, as I mentioned, put a lot of time and effort, and I'm going to just kind of hand these around. These are 38, 36, 40 page type documents, and let everybody kind of have a look and pass them around. I didn't want to print one for everybody, so let me see. Let's get two. That goes F and B go with it. Just kind of, I'm going to page through it too, but this is just if you want to peruse it a little more, just kind of passing it along. Both of those documents go with each other. It's more of a flip through. I'll send the full documents for folks to look at your leisure, because it is a bit. I will say, for example, when we talk about code, the devil is in the details, especially when you have these architectural districts. And from a legal standpoint, to be able to enforce them, you have to have some specific definitions on the books, because that's what they're going to refer to if you have a court case. And so, if the village wants to go in a denser route, which sounds like it does, and I would say, and look, since we're sitting in the middle of our larger neighbor who surrounds us on three sides, no problem, I would say, probably since there's been an expressed interest in the particular zoning by council members as a whole, I would say there's no problem with adopting something very similar. Right, and adapting it from a legal standpoint to Minerva Park's needs. I mean, that's at council level to get into those particular details, so that's going to be involved with some legal review too, right? But most of the work has been done. Get back to the time and effort of, you know, here you have me who works 1/3 time. Columbus, you've got, I don't know, 100 plus planners. I mean, it's some ungodly number plus a whole legal department. And then they pay millions to a consultant to help them come up with this, right? So this is done, and looking through it, it's been, for the most part, really well thought out, right? They put, if it's density you want, and you want it to be done in a way that's architecturally significant, and a way that adopts to the arterial streetscape, then they've done a good job at getting through basically getting through all of the work. And so, my recommendation, given what we don't, and where we're sitting, and our budget, somebody has provided this for us, and I would say that's a good thing, right? I would say, rather than reinvent the entire wheel, we really just have to take it and make some legal tweaks to it, I think. Maybe not that many. Because like I said, we've already got a base commercial plan district on the books for this area. This would become what's essentially called an overlay, right? We would just call it, Minerva Park Commercial District Overlay for our arterial. So 161, where we want to apply it. We've applied the same commercial district to 161. Wherever the council would like to see this done, then we can simply amend the zoning map. We can adopt these particular sections of code. It's all public, so it's all done, and we can put it to use, and therefore and then I would stress at the end of the day, this is a good guidance point. I think this gets the village what it wants, what it's looking for, and at the end of the day, there's no doubt going to have to be tweaks from a development standpoint, but the council has the final say in how that gets done. It has the final say in the architecturals and everything like that, and that's kind of where this all goes, so people can. The architects, when they spend the 20 or 30 or 40 million on a structure out there in a redevelopment, this is what they'll refer to, right? And so, again, if everybody's happy with that, it saves us time and money to get you the product that you want. And so I think that's the end goal of all this.
Well done, Eric, well done.
It's not, unfortunately, we went through it, we looked at it, and I think that's, I think.
I think in a
it's-
perfect world, that's, I mean,
Solutions in front of you.
yeah.
The only thing I would like to add is no structure should be greater than 3 stories tall.
And that's a council thought process, right? It's one of those things that it's a fine line with, you know, and it's in here, we can pull it up and just kind of look at it for a minute, and Dave.
And what's that currently say? Yeah.
Well, we have 40 feet, and so the rules and definitions here, let's look at, see if we can find it, actually, the development standards. In the main document, the kind of lead document right here, they talk about, too many things, 48 feet max, so this is essentially 4 stories. And so that's in our planned commercial district, we have 40 feet, so we have it a little shorter. And that's the usable point at which a parapet or anything like that is above that point, but that doesn't count towards some of the.
Towards that number?
What's that?
It doesn't count towards that number, or it
No,
does?
because what you're looking for is usable stories, and in this case, you're looking at usable stories, and so they have the measurements here on one of these, we'll pull that up and find it here real quick.
Oh, it actually is 3 stories tall.
40 feet would encompass 3 stories for sure, and that's already within the district. But again, when you get a proposal, it may only be 3 stories, right? I want you to keep that in mind, that this allows for it to get up to that point. But being a planned district, and we can make sure the text matches that, but it's council's choice at the end of the day, right? Now, you may get a wonderful proposal that you can go ahead and accept, and that's acceptable to the majority of council at whatever point the redevelopment comes in at. This just kind of goes through different examples and definitions. I was trying to find a good graphic in here.
Because one big advantage I would see about adopting this code, right, is that if there are different developers who are used to doing that in Columbus and they're doing it other places, they would come here and go, oh, it's,
It's the same.
really
Ready to
close.
go, yeah.
We know how to do this, it'll be cheaper for them and more likely for them to do it,
Yeah.
which is a big,
Matches the
Big
vibe,
reason.
and you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah.
Right.
As my good friend Steve Jobs once said, good artists steal, great artists steal, one of them just totally, anyhow. I'm George Bush right now.
So JP, on this one, this kind of gives you the idea. There's an upper stories, and it is kind of talking about it, but you have the base, middle, you have a top, and you have a top, and you have an upper story. So that's like the 4 stories. So all of these are, and I would say, since you're the councilman, take one of those hard copies home with you. If you want, I'll send you the
Study it
copy.
vigorously, sir.
There's
But-
a test Friday.
But they essentially, they go through it in depth here, right? It is defined, which is
You
9.
suggest, Eric,
I would suggest that
4 stories or
Yeah.
5?
5 is probably a little big.
I agree.
4 is probably the max you want to see out there, but the max.
Say what you got, Eric.
Because you want to make sure, you just want to make sure that you don't overpower the neighborhood, but a 4 stories isn't going to overpower your streetscape out there.
Ooh, a 3-story commercial building generally has lower construction and maintenance costs compared to 4-story.
Well, they could still do a 3-story.
Right.
It's nothing that precludes them from doing that.
Yeah.
It simply allows you a density that, as you stated, matches what they may already be used to. It gives you the opportunity to have a developer bring you a project that the village may very much like. They may have people lined up. It may be a combination of some offices, doctors, stuff, retail on the bottom, some apartments. You have all kinds of things mixed in there. And that's, I think, what folks are looking for in redevelopment.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, the challenge it can be for me is like, you just want to see it tomorrow,
Right.
But I'm thinking to myself, like, this is like 15 years.
Right. You may
Right?
see 10
We're
15
just setting the stage so people of the future
Yeah.
have a chance. I'm going to be retired,
Yeah. One thing is not going to, and this is one of the legal questions, but it's going to require a certain density at the end of the day, right? So that if one of these retail centers falls into disrepair, right, they cannot simply rebuild another retail center, right? And also in the commercial district, council would say no, right? I mean, you have the option. Maybe it comes in with a 2-story, and your guys are good with it.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a 3-story. But if you want to see density, you have to also enforce it on both ends, So it's one of those things you can't just straight up say, oh yeah, go ahead and rebuild that. Gotta come in, gotta have a nice project, we want to see things go this way, right?
And you briefly mentioned, so we're really thinking Cleveland Avenue, but we've got the commercial on Once East Wind, and those seem to have bigger properties. So I can almost see those being bigger than Cleveland, so would we be able to separate
You wouldn't
these?
have, like,
Or should we
so-
keep them the same?
no, I think right now there's a planned commercial district over here, so if you look at it, you don't quite have the same, you don't quite have the same depth and everything that you can do right here. You just, this is,
Those properties, I guess because it's like that green space and stuff, it makes it look like it's a larger space than
Right.
what we have on Cleveland Avenue.
you've got some length over on Cleveland and you've got the density. You could do this here, but you're gonna, I think that the,
It's like a flat iron district.
yeah, you can apply it here. I think you've got a little bit more of a length of time to redevelop this. There's nothing
Okay.
wrong with putting it here. You have this open space here, but I could definitely see some separated buildings being proposed prior to someone tearing down a funeral home and prior to someone, taking down, this is a large office building. It's not that they don't, and then of course, this is the building at 2999 that we were interested in. I mean, like I got it for a good price. And so we could have, it's possible that if these were all interconnected, yeah, you've got a nice big property to redevelop at some point in time. But these are all different age structures with different uses. I see the
So it's a
retail
lot less likely to get redeveloped, especially at the same time.
in a near time zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It could happen, right? But I think the 10 to 15 year time frame is correct on
Yeah.
Cleveland Avenue. Those things are just aged at this point. They're going to continue to deteriorate. You can only keep them alive and put so much money into them for so long, right?
What are the pros, cons of us entertaining this, a similar type development for a planned district?
Oh, I think it's already in the plan district. I think you definitively, if somebody came to you tomorrow and said, hey, I bought all of these, and I want to do this, and you're like, oh, could happen, right? I don't see that as likely just because you have different business owners at different stages of their usage, right? You've got an investment property on the end that he didn't pay a lot of money for, so he's gonna see that one go on for a long time. I think he sold this one actually. So, which makes sense because he made a nice profit on it. He's got a funeral home that they seem to have a good business, and if that's family run, it's gonna go for a while,
Have they
But
been
it's
there a long
interesting.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think since the mid-nineties.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, kind of remember it
Allow me
being,
to slip into some nostalgia. When I went to Hawthorne, I remember the firefighters burning down the house that was there to do like a practice thing.
Nice.
I don't remember if I saw it or not, but I remember them being around and it was like, don't go over by the house that's on fire.
Yep.
And then the funeral showed up.
And then who owns that green space right there?
The printing folks do. We've talked to them a bit. They're not to the point of selling this. I think they want to sell their whole piece. They're definitely nearer to retirement than.
Because those are the two properties I would see like probably changing
Right.
before the
Oh, yeah.
ones going
Yeah.
towards Ponderosa.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's just for a density such as this, to do this type of stuff here, sometimes it's a cost and return on investment type calculation, and this space may or may not lend itself to that. I'm the beholder with how investment folks work sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with applying it to this area. That's again, council's discretion as to, if you want to put the overlay up here, there's nothing wrong with it, it doesn't hurt anything. And again, once we get into the weeds on it a little bit more to make some recommendations from a legal standpoint, how do you want to couch it, right? Maybe you don't want to restrict this part of the overlay, we'll call this overlay 161 overlay area. Maybe you make the one on Cleveland much more restrictive in terms of, yes, you must have a certain density. On this one, perhaps you'll entertain something because it's wider spaces, and maybe this applies more to the urban, like general 2 or 3 in the Columbus.
When I see that space, I'm like, wow, that's actually, I haven't even thought about it creatively,
Right.
I think about Polaris, where we talked about, I don't know if there's the points at Polaris where they have lots of apartments, and I'm like, man,
Right.
like if I had a couple $100 million,
right?
There's something nifty right there.
it could be fun. I just think about the fun times we can have.
Raising Cane's?
And then reality hits and you're like, I'm broke.
Yeah, I
No.
know. A few $100
So-
million short.
Yeah, right.
But, so the short answer is yes, there's nothing wrong with applying it to this area too, to answer both of your questions essentially. It's all good.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you don't start planning for something for it, it's kind of like the one property that we talk about quite often, you end up with a storage unit.
Yeah.
It's,
We want to limit chances of something.
yeah, so I think that was, those
I
are,
agree.
it's smart to talk about it now, because if not, then you end up in those situations.
And the other side of it again is, as was talked about in an earlier meeting, you may wanna include everything within the block of Elmhurst too, just in case. You get somebody that buys up all the properties and wants to include the depth and have a very big project, you know, they would double their depth. So, and then, you know, part of this, since it butts up to residential as we discussed, you may only, you know, you have a buffer, perhaps half of those lots, you know, up to the building line here.
So how would that affect them if their house burned down?
Yeah.
Will they be able to rebuild their house?
Yes, you could stipulate it, it's an overlay. So as it stands right now, anything that happens in the, we'll call it the legacy section here of Minerva Park, the zoning that was approved means they have to come before before P and Z and council for major structures, right? Not a shed, but if they want an addition, and I interpret that as well as if the house burned down, they're gonna have to come in front, because there are, in all of these cases, there are, as we noted earlier when we changed the code, there are setback issues everywhere.
Sure.
Everything's illegal, non-conforming.
Yeah, because everything was conforming once we approved it.
Right, now it's all conforming.
As long as they don't change
So-
the footprint, then it's okay. But if
Right.
they do change, then they have to come before P&Z.
Right. So in the sense, if something burned down, I think, you know, they rebuild it, it's not going to be the same structure. It's just not. Right? They're not gonna build what they had, a different house is going to be built, they're gonna have to come in front anyways. They're going to get approval for any of these structures that in that scenario. If it was a repair, if they lost a room and they're just building it back to the way it was, then again, that does not require them to come back in front of either body, right? That's just it's a repair issue from an insurance standpoint. The total house demo and rebuild will. But it can be, but again, the overlay doesn't preclude you from approving a single family house within, it's residential at the base. But just to point that out, this is a residential base plan district that's underneath of this. Even if you apply the overlay, and again, a full question to be answered to legal, but my understanding of it, the overlay simply allows you to do certain things. The base zoning still is applicable. So the house is still a legal usage of the base zoning.
Yeah.
Right? So if somebody wanted to extend the project, then it's open for discussion. You know,
Yeah.
so, some thoughts.
No, I mean, I don't wanna say it solves a problem because it solves no problems, but I mean, that area and the other area, if you were to provide opportunity for a larger quantity of residents to live here, that's what it looks like.
Bless you. It does.
But yeah, it's,
So, essentially at this stage, I mean, that's kind of the end of my recommendation at this point. I think it's in the village's best interest, based on kind of what the council had kind of sent back down and with the discussions, if the Planning and Zoning Commission here is good with it, we would simply take that back and say, hey, we've discussed it, here's what we've come up with. We think it's best to use Columbus's code for this. We can make tweaks. They've done all the work already. It matches what's going on north and south of us, and on the other side of the street potentially as they kind of move it in there. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, and it's up to you folks to kind of thumbs up or thumbs that down. It's not, you know, doesn't require a formal vote. We just have to kind of talk about it and make sure everybody's cool with it.
Is there anybody that's not good with it? Let's do it that way. Yeah. We're all good. Yeah. I think we're all in.
Moving right along, next.
That makes it a nice, easy meeting. So that's.
No, I think we did do quite a bit last time when we were here. I think we were all on board with it, just kind of making sure that it's not something that we went home, fell asleep, and was like, that's stupid.
I would concur.
Yeah, I think we really went through a lot of it last week.
do they have any signage information in this?
No, and what I would suggest on the signage, this is something that should and will be tackled with a full development plan. So when someone redevelops something like this, you can go back and design a sign standard that's applicable. Like they're going to have, like a developer's going to have a sign plan that goes with their building. And the plan district will allow for that to be discussed.
Okay, so you rezone it the way you kind of want it to be, but then when somebody actually comes and wants to do it that way, that's when they come with, hey, here's what we'd like to do.
Right.
And
Right.
you say, hey, but change your signs, I want them to be
Right.
neon only, or.
Right, Right, there could be some lively discussion on signs at that point with the council if you so choose.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, that part's easy in my opinion. I mean, the sign details are not so easy, but we don't have to invent a whole sign code just for this because plenty of these folks that already do these are gonna have them.
Standard.
Right, right. And again, plan district allows for negotiation. They may come in and say, we want this to be a little bit bigger up here on the corners because we've already got this tenant. And to be like, yeah, we like that tenant because they're gonna bring in several $1 million in payroll. You never know. And so otherwise, that's an easy one, right? So that's how that could go. And maybe they want blue and not green because that's their logo. I don't know. But again, they may be cool with all green. So, just depends what happens at that moment in time.
And I think it's just a good idea, I mean, if we're gonna talk about it, and whether it's council or whether it's that, is just start paying attention to some of the different areas. I mean, I'm not saying we're Bexley and I'm not saying we're New Albany or any of that, but when you drive through those places, I mean, even real estate signs have to be specific
Right.
in certain neighborhoods, in certain areas. So, I mean, it depends on how crazy you wanna go with your signage out there. Do you want every single one to look green? I'm just using that because he just said that, but do you want them all to look like this? Do you want them not? Do you want them to have some sort of character? I mean, I'm sure, like he said, some of them don't, some of them may not want to go and have to reinvent their entire logo and everything else to match our policy, but if our policy is this, then they have to. So that's what they'll do. So it just depends on how much restrictions you want to have on people. And Eric was here when we did talk about, our sign code has changed since we've been here. We spent more time than I care to admit on the sign stuff to get it to where it was, because a lot of those boxes were like broken or empty or half empty, or somebody had a sign this big. And so we spent a lot of time out there determining how much like the window, how many things could they have inside their window, and how, like, we spent a long time on it just from that kind of stuff. So for him to say that it's a conversation is an understatement. Because you're gonna have 6 people potentially, like, you're gonna have somebody that goes extremely this way, and you're gonna have some that are like, let them.
No pun intended, I've figured out how to zone out in those conversations. My God, I care nothing.
Will you
about
teach
these.
us?
I like finance, so I pay attention to this.
Right. Well, but it's important to what's important to some people or not to others, that I don't even notice signs in certain areas, but I will promise you, I notice when they're broken. I notice when there's things like that that make it not look as attractive. So there's certain things that are just important to other people that are not, I get it, so.
Yeah. JP, this is a graphic on the stories, so you can kind of see where the heights end up, height-wise, roughly speaking. So the top 3 stories roughly 35, 4 stories. If you go to 5 stories, it's 60 feet.
12
Let's just go to 12,
That's right there, 150 maybe.
I mean, it's a great sound barrier.
right?
Somebody mentioned that, and I was like, ooh.
If we could knock down the rehab facility, build a 12-foot, I couldn't hear Fear Columbus. I'm thinking that might be a good plan.
It's very possible. So,
I miss Farmore.
Oh, that brings back memories.
I've heard that name in a long time.
I actually did. I used to walk over there. Obviously, I live right behind there. I used to walk over there. Like, Grandpa would give us $20 and say, "Here you go, Mr. Bulky's."
Candy, oh yeah.
Don't judge if you haven't been there.
Yeah.
It's a candy store.
Sounds
It
great.
had. It was a kid's dream.
So, any other questions? Signs? Discussion? We have time.
I guess I did have a question around.
Sure.
So it sounds like we're talking about like a potential developer is probably gonna try to get the whole section.
That would make
Or
sense.
Is that most realistic?
I
Or-
think for biggest bang for the buck,
Yeah,
it makes the most sense. I mean, if you can get the whole, again, when we talk about
Yeah.
likelihoods, again, age is part of it, but when we look at these, there's a total of 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 total parcels here. It's easier to put those together, right? You have 6 owners to deal with. It's easier than when you're trying to put, I think it's harder when you've got to add in the houses, but hey, when you start
Sure.
putting money in,
I think my only thought
It
was
happens.
like, is there a chance of this zoning making us lose out on someone who only wants to buy half of it, or a section
Well-
that is still wanting the density that would benefit us?
I think, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
I think if somebody's got a dream about how they do it, I just think I think when you've got an unobtrusive block like
It
this,
makes sense, if you can get it all, yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna spend there is a certain efficiency scale,
Yeah.
right? And the more you get here, the more you can put into your project, and it costs you less from a construction standpoint on a per square foot basis. So that's possible and likely. I mean, you put the zoning there, and you never know what someone brings you from a project standpoint, right?
So is this a size that they're allowed, because like, I don't know how, there are big developers, there may be smaller ones, like,
Right.
is this a small project for a lot of them? Is this a really, like, I would hate to lose out on potential ones because we're,
Don't think you're gonna lose out on anything.
Okay, that's-
Just to point that out.
That's
Lose out is an interesting term. I think,
yeah.
I don't think you do that here. I think it's, whenever you're talking a project, it's always easier when you have a nice square rectangle parcel, right? But rare in the commercial, in the industrial development world to be run into that, right?
It's in the middle of a city.
Right.
Like where we're at.
Right,
Yeah.
you have redevelopment and infill development opportunities, you know, and some of these take a long time. Look at what, and it was a big dirty parcel, but look what they did down there at 4th and 670, you know, where you've got all that redevelopment, where you had the old factories, and that stood there for, you know, a long time, 30, 40, 50 years before they finally got around to
Yeah.
redoing it. They're still in process, but they've redone the whole, I was down at the Italian Festival, and they've redone all of that on 4th Street. It's been, you know, redone down there.
So this is just a general question, and I'm saying this for this. So what if Don decides, after we adopt all of this stuff, that he decides next month he wants to, after we do everything, he decides, I want to sell my property.
Yeah, you can do that.
And then now you have that. So the realist part of getting this done is an investor coming in here and trying to negotiate with all of them. So I think, I like he was talking about, I think it's just difficult to, as you continue, like the one on the funeral home.
Yeah.
Something like that is gonna be difficult because that person's not going anywhere. So if you
No,
get
it's an
somebody
active
in there
business,
that
it's
just
worth
really
it.
wants to hold on to a property, it's like,
Right.
I think that's the hardest part.
That's not an unusual situation. Money solves that problem.
It does.
just depends, it
It
depends
does.
on what they've got, type of backers. I think it's gonna be a few years before you, well, I shouldn't say that. It's gonna be, it's hard to gauge. Columbus is an active place
Mm-hmm.
in the commercial market, right? There's some funkiness right now with the economy, and so but people are finding ways to do their deals, especially on where it makes sense, right? When it makes sense to a group of investors, you know, folks also will buy these things at a certain velocity, meaning I might get a hold of this and.
Not doing anything yet.
No,
Right.
yeah, we'll just hold it, I mean, they're renting it, right? It has rental income.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Until
pay,
it's
they're gonna
time,
pay
yeah.
a certain number for it. They're not gonna tell them I have bigger plans, because that just makes your price go up. You're gonna try to come in and buy it, maybe you pay a little premium, and the guy's happy to take it because he's tired of dealing with it, you never know, right? Sometimes they're not, and it takes more money to get it, but it really, the last guy to hold out usually gets, you know, what he needs, because they need to move him on, right? So if they gotta pay him double, so 600,000, they pay him because it makes sense at that moment, right?
It's just, I think it's interesting from like a demographic standpoint where the income of the people in the village is much higher than the surrounding area. And you can probably lend yourself to a higher, I don't wanna say higher class, but a more, I would
Different
imagine it would
diverse, like,
attract some,
Yeah.
You're
it's
seeing,
like, oh, there's value here because people here make more money and you can,
And you're right close to the people that.
and I can be wrong.
it also drives what this, like this, they've held this for a long time,
Yeah,
and you've seen it change.
yeah.
And they're putting a lot of money into it in the middle, and they've got new tenants, Gordon Food Service is one of them. But they've, you know, they lost a grocery store, and they've redone it, and that's part of managing this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And they've been, I think, successful in managing the way 161 has changed over the years, from the ups and downs. And I think you're seeing this area,
I looked at that today, actually.
Right.
Adler Group or whatever. It's very interesting.
right, you're seeing these things redevelop and people, you know, refresh them, right? And you're able to charge, because at the end of the day, it's an investment for them too. They've held in their family a long time, and they refresh it, and they're able to charge more rent. If you let it get run down, you're not gonna be able to, they're no dummies, they've been doing this long enough. And they've got their super dense zoning over here, right? We looked at that last time. So Columbus has made this
Because that's already been rezoned,
oh yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah, that's on the,
That's
yeah,
rezoned.
we looked on the map.
Yeah. That's denser than what we're looking at.
Oh yeah, it's what they call a regional activity center, I think, so that's that, if I recall correctly from the map, that's the regional activity center. There's the map back here. Yeah, so we can look at it real quick again, just to refresh. That's right there, so they basically they've turned that into the regional activity center, surrounded by the community activity center. So these are busy, dense areas that we're in between. So there's Minerva, and then same thing down here. So you're in between these two primary development corridors that go east-west on Morrison 161. It makes sense that Cleveland's also a primary arterial and should see some similar development over time. So.
Now, refresh my mind too, like parking wise, when the areas we're looking at, like if they are gonna be denser, is there
Right.
parking requirements, or is that
So
still
what-
open for discussion in the
There-
plan?
What we would talk about is that there has to be some parking. You don't have no parking. Like,
Yeah.
I had a client, we were down on Fifth and Third, where they've got some of those bigger developments out of the ground now, and restaurant client, and so there was a lot of discussion about who's having parking, where's my parking, because he needs parking for staff. Labor is important to run a restaurant, and everybody's having a good discussion about how we're gonna provide parking after certain hours, there's a garage, right, things of that nature, right? So, the folks that own these things also know to make things successful, you gotta have parking. So it's not like they're gonna plop a building down with no parking anymore, that's not gonna work for anybody. So it's gotta be subterranean parking, right, 1 or 2 levels underneath. And I think as we had the discussion last time, something of this magnitude that we plopped down for $50 million or whatever it costs to build it, qualifies for some type of TIF district, right? And we can definitively, once we build it, or if they build it, and it's TIF, you can have an incentive back to this is a form also an incentive. It's expensive to build parking like that, but to help it move along, you can give them a reimbursement because you can make part of it public. And I think we talked about the Gahanna project over there, right? The Creekside. And so they've got parking available on a couple levels underneath. And you definitely want to do that because it supports everything there. I think they were charging for it one time. I know there's certain times they don't charge, but I could be wrong.
Majority of the time I've been, I've never had
Right.
to pay any time I've been over there,
Right.
yeah.
So it's one of those things, maybe rock festivals or something.
Yeah, those type
If I
things, yeah.
remember right. But that gives you options to help further incentivize construction. Because again, you want it. The investors may need a little bit of a push, but if they see more dollars in their pocket, it helps them do two things. One, helps them do what you want them to do, which means make it happen. And 3, if they've got to pay a few people a little more money, they have that in mind that, hey, I can make this happen by giving Juan here an extra $300 grand to get out because the last guy standing, right? Because I'm going to get that back. So, everybody's happy. So, that answers your question.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else?
I just looked up the income difference for Minerva Park compared to the state of Ohio. It's, say median, a household is 125 versus Ohio is 56.
We should look at Columbus. I think a better metric is Columbus as a whole,
Okay.
or Franklin County, perhaps is, because you're combining some very
Yeah.
low-income areas in the
I
southeast.
know, but I was just like, wow, that's actually very
Yeah, some
interesting.
rural areas that I think
Columbus, you might even be able to find something with.
Most-
I'm sure.
ChatGPT might know.
Yeah.
I know, I'm trying not to use it. I'm trying to play it. I'm trying to play it.
I do not use that at all.
Household 73, don't start. Actually, that is very useful. You
I'm sure it is, but then
have to ask.
I didn't mean to
the
get
right-
something.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
I can't do it.
You can.
No, I can't. I need my kid to help me or something because no.
ChatGPT will become your kid if you wanted to.
Yes, it will. It's my therapist.
Man, that'll save me some money.
It can help. Then you therapy your therapist. Be like, are you sure that your inability to help
Like,
is rooted in your
Just,
childhood?
we're getting way off topic, but I won't even talk to Suri like that. No, it just, no, me and her, no, we're just not. Her and I are just not friends.
Yeah, Franklin County is 73. It's
Okay.
compared to,
It's still a lot.
That's still
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a better comparison, I think. So
fair.
Yeah, because I just want us to make sure that we are like competitive with the people that are gonna come and look at 161 in Cleveland Avenue. That, like, making sure we can, you know, maybe offer something
Right.
a little bit different
So-
to them to bring them in.
Demographics do drive certain businesses, but certain businesses thrive in certain demographics. It's kind of a way to look at it, right? So, for example, everyone loves chicken. Chicken places, Chick-fil-A, I mean,
We don't
the
want
hot chicken takeout as an example. Well, they're done, but I can tell you that they're like,
The model.
their Grandview store, which was at Fifth and, I forget, but it's right over there, I can't remember the other cross street going this way. But it was, that store was pulling in $40,000 a week,
That doesn't surprise me.
right? A week in tickets. That's how well it did. And the chicken was priced, you know, on a scale, a lot of demographics could enjoy it. See, there's one that appealed to multiple demographics. And there's other chicken stores that pull in a significant number, and they're in lower income areas. So it just depends, you know. But when you talk about, I want a range of certain things, and you just want to make it, you know, and landlords also want those things. There is a rent level, but they will, for certain uses, work with the particular business, right? So the market works itself out, don't worry, right? So it will not be lower income rents that you see now in some of the retail centers. You'll see some nationals with the development like that. You'll see some other particular strong regionals that are in the area that come into those spots that are, you know, be what they're looking for, so.
I'm good. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Let's go to some football night.
I know, there's no football on tonight, there's no nothing, we're done. The other meetings went like 7 hours. Eric and I are like, it's football night. Yeah, I think we're ready. Are we good?
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All right.
Yeah,